the gates of Royal Lodge were closed for good. For Prince Andrew, it wasn't just a move. It was the final physical proof of a collapse that had been years in the making. From a 30-room Windsor mansion to a remote farmhouse on the King's estate. But this isn't a story about a simple property swap. This is about a royal brotherhood pushed to its limit, a monarchy in survival mode, and the shocking reality of where a disgraced prince gets sent to live when the palace decides you're too expensive and too toxic to keep in the spotlight. Welcome back to Royal Family Daily. Losing his titles over the Virginia Giuffre scandal was a devastating public stripping of status. But what finally got him pushed out of his home wasn't just the court of law. It was the court of public opinion and the ruthless arithmetic of the royal finances. Because while the world knew about the lawsuits, the real inside scandal was the rent. Or, more accurately, the lack of it. For years, Andrew reportedly paid a peppercorn rent for Royal Lodge, a symbolic amount believed to be just a few £100s a week for a palace worth tens of millions. When that detail surfaced, the outrage was nuclear. In a crushing cost of living crisis, with the king desperate to project a slimmer, cheaper, more empathetic monarchy, this was the one offence the institution couldn't spin. That nominal rent cheque became a symbol of outrageous privilege. It was the tangible, financial proof that he wasn't just a liability, he was a costly freeloader. And it gave the palace the final, unimpeachable excuse it needed to act. Forget brotherly loyalty. The moment Charles became king, his primary, all-consuming mission was securing the monarchy's future. And Andrew represented the past's most dangerous, lingering ghost. Palace insiders described the pressure as intensifying from day one of the new reign. The message was not subtle. Royal Lodge, with its vast upkeep, its sprawling grounds, and its symbolic weight as a royal residence, was no longer tenable. This stopped being a family discussion and became a sovereign's directive. Andrew, according to reports, fought a fierce rearguard action, dragging out negotiations for over a year. He dug in, but his position was hopeless. He had no leverage, no public role, no military titles, and a brother whose entire reign, Blueprint, the firm 2.0, depended on surgically distancing the crown from his chaos. Evicting him wasn't personal. It was palace politics at its most brutal and necessary. So the question became, where do you put a prince you can't be seen to honour, but can't exactly make homeless on the streets? The answer, it turns out, was Marsh Farm. A modest red brick working farmhouse buried in the Norfolk countryside just 2 miles from Sandringham. Let's be clear, this is not a royal grace and favour home. It's a functional, slightly shabby estate property that sources confirm had been sitting empty, decaying for years. Recent pictures tell the entire story. A 2-metre-high wooden fence, raw and new, hastily erected for privacy where the old hedgerows failed. These aren't the elegant, wrought iron gates of Windsor. This is a barrier, a containment measure. The message from the estate was clear. Out of sight, out of mind. That 2-mile buffer from Sandringham House itself is deeply symbolic, close enough to remain under the estate's watchful eye and security umbrella, but far enough to be physically removed from the heart of royal family life. The recent flurry of activity at Marsh Farm reveals the stark truth. This isn't a glamorous refurbishment for a favoured relative. Lights were spotted on in upstairs windows late into the evening. Workers were seen hauling materials between the main house and a tired-looking outbuilding. The low rumble of construction machinery has replaced the quiet of the fields. Insiders with knowledge of the estate suggest the place needed, and is now urgently getting, the most basic essential work. We're talking about heating systems for the harsh Norfolk winters, updating antiquated plumbing, and installing that discreet but comprehensive security fencing. This is the palace providing a basic, secure roof, not a palace. Every delivery of insulation, every digger, trench for new pipes, is a blunt reminder. This is what a downgrade looks like when you're expelled from the inner circle. It's not a restoration project, it's a habitation project. Let's talk about the money, because it's crucial. The financing of this move speaks volumes. While the King's estate owns the property, reports strongly suggest that Andrew himself is being made responsible for the bulk of the renovation costs. This isn't the Crown generously funding a new start. This is Andrew being presented with a bill for his own exile. Furthermore, his infamous £249,000 annual grant from the late Queen for upkeep, the fund that sustained his lifestyle at Royal Lodge, has dried up. His finances are now reportedly funneled through the King's private purse, giving Charles ultimate oversight and control over every major expense. It's a financial chokehold. He's gone from having a sovereign's allowance to living on a monitored budget. The autonomy he fiercely guarded is gone. Every decision, from the spec of the kitchen fittings to the security detail, now likely crosses a desk in London. He's a tenant on his brother's land, in every sense of the word. So, what does Andrew's new world actually look like? His horizon is now the flat, isolated expanse of the Norfolk countryside. His neighbours aren't other royals or Windsor's aristocratic elite, but rolling fields and farm workers. The rhythm of his life, once a blur of global travel, prestigious golf days, and glittering black tie events, is now measured in quiet countryside walks, always behind that high wooden fence. He's physically near Sandringham, but insiders question how welcome he'll truly be at family gatherings. He may be a logistical convenience at Christmas, but not a central figure. This is the very definition of internal exile. A comfortable, secure exile, by any normal standard. But for a man born a heartbeat from the throne, who was once considered the Queen's favourite, it's a stark, concrete manifestation of how far he's fallen. The grandeur has been replaced by granaries, but even from Norfolk, Andrew's shadow still causes problems. His continued presence on the Sandringham estate, however hidden, remains a nagging reputational risk. Every time his name resurfaces in the media, it drags the toxic associations of the past back into the present. For King Charles, who wants his reign defined by duty and service, this is a permanent, low-grade headache. There are whispers among commentators that this move to Marsh Farm might not be the endgame. Some speculate it's merely a holding pattern, a way station before a more permanent and perhaps more distant solution is found once the public memory has faded a little more. The palace can't make him disappear, but they can make him very, very quiet. The question is whether that will ever be enough. The fences at Marsh Farm are going up to shield Andrew from the public gaze, but in many ways, they also seal him inside the inescapable consequences of his own actions. This move draws a stark, physical line under his former royal life. The grand offices at Buckingham Palace are gone. The honorary military uniforms are gone. His Royal Highness's title is gone. Now, the Windsor mansion is gone. What remains is a farmhouse in need of repair, a ducal title he can barely use, and a relationship with the Crown that exists purely and precariously on the King's terms. The renovation underway is about making a house habitable, but the real, unresolved question, the one that will linger long after the construction crews leave, is what kind of life, what kind of purpose is left to be lived inside its walls? For the royal family, this chapter might be closing. But for Prince Andrew, the most difficult construction project of all, the rebuilding of a legacy, hasn't even broken ground. If you found this deep dive into the royal reshuffle compelling, make sure you're subscribed to Royal Family Daily and hit that notification bell. We're here to separate the palace PR from the real palace politics. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Marsh Farm is Andrew's forever home, or just the next stop on his journey into obscurity?